I'm Jessica, and I will be talking about education reform. Now, in acknowledging, we have to state that have students design their own quality criteria and develop frameworks to help them understand and acknowledge their own skills. Now, education change. Education should be about learning and interacting rather than learning skills to pass a test or to score a high in the grade book. This can be possible with changing around the educational system methods. Now in training. Better training for both teachers and administrators in how to deal with disruptive students, and support from administrators in removing these students from the classroom when necessary would go a long way towards improving achievements. Intellectual. Stop thinking of education in terms of content and start thinking of it in terms of intellectual habits. Special classes. General education and special education teachers working together more effectively to help special education students be more successful in general education classes.
Hi, I'm Abigail Mendieta, and I'll be talking about the educational reform. The educational reform in high school. The performance of high schools around the country is receiving a significant amount of attention from state and federal policymakers, business interests, and communities as we continue to learn more about the challenges our education system is facing in the new global economy. Some problems we have is that according to the editorial projects and education research centers, some 70% of students nationally graduate from high school on time, but a little more than half of our African American and Hispanic students can earn diplomas with their peers. Issues. Too many high school graduates are not educationally prepared for post-secondary education or training, nor are they prepared to be competitive in the workforce. In a survey by Achieve Inc., college instructors estimated that more than 70% of high school graduates are not ready for college courses, and up to 30% of first-year post-secondary education students must take remedial courses. Improvements. High schools are being asked to revamp their curriculum and methodology and teacher and student relationships paradigm in order to better serve the needs of students, communities, and our state and local economies. In today's global economy, America's ability to compete depends on our ability to prepare high school graduates to be successful in an increasingly knowledge-based economy. What we can do, we could change the way we do stuff around the school for the better of the students in the school.
Hi, I'm Estefania Cortez, and I will be presenting educational reform in the role of a parent. Well, first, we have to be responsible for everyone's child, every education of our own child. And it's easy to say that we care about our child's education, but we have to show it. Education reform has a lot to do with schools, but ultimately it starts at home. Better students can demand better education. You start by making sure that our child is an actively involved student, staying on top of homework, assignments, and participating in class. And find out what's going on at school and be accountable as an involved parent. Start with your school. Much of the school reform that you may hear about these days is from politicians at the national level, but change can happen in just a single school too. What better place to start than the school your kids go to? Ask questions, learn about academic standards and performance, and advocate change at the school level. Talk to the principal, staff, and even school district to find out how any concerns that you have may be addressed. Join parent groups. One dissatisfied parent voice isn't very loud, but many parents together can make a big difference. Across the country, parents are joining together to discuss and contribute to school reform. These groups can make a difference, most notably at the local level. In California, a nonprofit parent group, Parent Revolution, was responsible for pushing through a law known as the Parent Trigger, which gives parents power through petition to force failing schools to turn things around. Groups like this give parents authority and power to really make a difference, leveraging policy change and holding greater influence over school board elections. Support school reform groups. Similar to parent groups, school reform groups bring the community together to advocate for school reform. With some groups, you can become involved in legislative change. Others offer educational sessions for parents and more. Find out about school reform groups in your area to see if they offer sources that might help with you and your children. Speak up. Even if you're not part of school reform groups, and especially if you are, make sure that your voice is heard. As a parent, your opinion is important. Speak with school administration, school district officials, and the school board about your concerns. Write to your local paper and find other ways to get the media involved. Ask the media to do more reporting on the local school systems. Chances are you're not the only one seeing problems and working for solutions. Be sure that your voice is part of school reform so that your needs are met. Tell other parents that there's something wrong. While there are many parents speaking up about school reform, there are still many others that are oblivious to problems in school. A new American media poll that surveyed 1,400 K-12 parents of students in southeastern states shows that although most of the states surveyed have very poor math scores, parents show no outrage or sense of urgency to bring about improvement and change. Bring the message of school reform to other parents and ask them to get involved with you to improve education. Shop around for better schools. As a parent, you can support schools that are getting it right. Although it may come with some cost, you're not stuck with the public schools to which you're currently zoned. Some families choose to move to areas with schools that offer better education. Others prefer to pay for private schools. Still, other families take advantage of magnet schools where students can qualify to learn at a campus that is outside of the area. Homeschooling is an option as well. Exercise your limited power of choice to send a message that you'll only send your kids to schools that offer a quality of education that you're happy with. Provide a stable home life. Schools need improvement. There's no denying that, but experts point out that schools aren't completely blamed for the high rates of high school dropouts and low rates of college completion. In fact, more than 2/3 of those surveyed in a publiceducation.org study believe that parents and home life are to blame for these problems. Parents must provide a stable home life for students to find success, offering support and openly discussing goals for the future educational achievements. Get informed. Be an informed, active participant in school reform. Learn about the important issues not just in your own school district, but the state and nation. Read articles, books, and news. Even take part in meetings and conferences. You can even visit school staff development libraries to get access to educational publications like Educational Leadership and Education Week that can provide lots of insight. Find out what your kids think. School reform is all about the children, isn't it? So find out what exactly they think about problems, changes, and new reforms as they happen. They're much more likely to give their parents a straight scoop than a stranger or informational survey. Share what your kids' concerns and frustrations are. A child's voice can be very powerful in education reform. Take part in protests. Education protests and rallies are happening in a variety of different states, and you can add your voice to them by joining your own local gathering or supporting others far away. These can be a part of parent or community school reform groups or independent. Whatever the source, keep your ear to the group to find out how you can participate and share your needs with the greater public. And lastly, vote. Although you can make a difference as a regular citizen, politicians make many of the important decisions in education. Are you happy with the officials who hold the responsibility of your child's education? Consider whether local, state, and national politicians are doing what you would like to see in education and vote accordingly.
I, Eunice Akano, an high school principal, came up with the following ideas to reform education. For years, there has been a debate about the state of American education system. Year after year, our students perform worse than international peers. There's been an outcry over the cost of a college education, just saying the words common core, leads to an argument. Employers demand there needs to be more focus on STEM education. Teachers demand the stop of constraining with standardized tests, and parents demand the increase of funding for arts and music programs. While these types of education reform proposals are all worth considering, there has been a major problem no one is talking about, which is the lack of real career preparation. Our children receive over a decade of education in K-12, but they have never taught how to transform the knowledge to the real world. There is little to no guidance on choosing a career or information provided about what different jobs are actually like. As a result, the education system is setting our children up for failure. Once they complete high school, they take a stab in the dark about what type of career they would like, and as a result, many choose poorly and get stuck at a career they hate, or have to pay for additional education and try again. If they are lucky, they will find a job they can tolerate, but the truth is that a large percent of our children are not making it to college. Research from the National Center for Education System have shown that 17% of young adults Research from the National Center for Education Statistics have shown that 17% of young adults that don't graduate from high school. The Bureau of Labor Statistics found that 30% of those students who didn't graduate from high school in 2015 have not enrolled in college. Those young people are left to find a job or vocational school. Yet K-12 administration focus solely on getting students into college rather than preparing them for the choices they will face when they get there or when they enter the workforce. It is no wonder the number one complaint students have about the education is that there is no connection between the classroom and the real world. Secondary school is no longer designed to help them succeed in the real world, but it's meant to help them get into college or university. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you to all of our advisors for their speeches. Education reform and school improvement. It is our kids' future. We need to act now, and this is what we need to do, and this is what we need to know. Educational reforms in the 1980s and 1990s were a big thing. Conservative response to the progressive reforms of the 1960s and 1970s were started because they had to address the different issues. There was the nation at risk and other reports that concerned primarily with accountability and achievement. The first wave of reform occurred with many states increasing their graduation requirements, toughened curriculum mandates, and increased the use of standardized tests to measure student achievement. Increasingly, top-down reform was seen to be ineffective, however, and teachers were never brought into this kind of system. The second wave of reform targeted with the structure and processes of schools and handled more control in the hands of local schools, teachers, and communities. The triple theme of achievement, assessment, and accountability. Reforms remain highly bureaucratic and aimed at assessment, critics said, and teacher empowerment side-based management of school choice and charter schools and tuition vouchers became more important. It was all about choice for the students. Now, when we see the school choice, it's seen as a panacea, non-bureaucratic, inexpensive, and fundamentally egalitarian, allowing market forces to shape school policy. It's controversial and highly political because it causes a lot of dispute. Should we favor choice over what our students necessarily need? Is what we want really what is needed at that time? What happens when there is no choice is that you lose motivations and students do not want to be a part of the education system anymore.
Instead, when you have school choice, we can have market-driven choice that increase satisfaction and increase educational opportunities for minority children. Choice parents are also more involved in their children's education, and as well, parents are more satisfied. What other reform movements are there? There's school-to-business partnerships, as well as school-to-work programs, school-based management, and teacher empowerment. The effective school movement starts with everyone being on the same page. Now, when it comes to teacher education, if we want to be more modernized and we have better programs for both our students and our teachers, there's perceived to be a lack of rigor and intellectual demands in teacher education programs. So if we are to really reform our education, we have to start with teachers. We need to attract and retain competent teacher candidates to educate the children because they are the future for tomorrow. We need to reorganize academic and professional components of teacher education in the undergraduate and graduate levels. We need to motivate students as well as teachers to have that relationship in which both can see a benefit from and be happy with the products. Now, why do we need to change our education in the US? Well, for starters, it will improve our economy, it will improve the standard of living, it will improve the quality of life, and it will improve the quality of our government and our society. Educated citizens make for a better country. And why is this not happening? Well, because we allow for the system to be corrupted and we allow for money to be considered instead of our students' benefits, which is why we need to act now. I hope that we can work together to create a solution in which everyone can have access to a worldwide education. Thank you.